The afternoon my parents handed the keys to my sister at her wedding reception, I learned about it from a forwarded catering invoice. For 5 years, I'd been covering their mortgage silent deposits every month so they wouldn't lose the home I grew up in. They gifted that house away in a champagne toast, and nobody said my name. I'm a tax accountant. I sort other people's secrets for a living. I never thought I'd have to open my own case file. 2 months later, they asked to move into my small cabin on Hemlock Lake. When I refused, my mother gave me a thin, satisfied smile and walked out. The next morning, a sheriff's deputy was standing on my doorstep. Welcome to Tranquil Drama Stories, where quiet people find their voice and every receipt tells a truth. If stories about family, boundaries, and earned justice keep you listening, settle in. Drop a comment with where you're from and subscribe. My name is June Aldridge. I'm 34, a bookkeeper in Millbrook, Pennsylvania. I have a plastic file box with 5 years of signed notes and bank records. I never imagined those papers would become the barrier between me and a criminal accusation. I'm the dependable one, like sturdy furniture nobody thinks about until they need to lean on it. For years, I wore that label because being needed felt close enough to being loved. 5 years ago, my father Leonard called on a Thursday evening. His voice was shaky. They were 3 months behind on the house. The bank had sent a foreclosure warning, and he didn't know how to tell my mother Diane. I didn't ask why they hadn't planned better. I said I'd help, on my terms. I'd pay the mortgage directly. But I also did what my profession drilled into me. Every year, I drafted a promissory note stating the money was a loan, not a gift. I brought it to Sunday dinner with a pen, said it was for clean tax records. My mother waved her hand. My father signed without reading. They both signed, every year, never reading past the first line. To them, it was paperwork. To me, it was the only way I knew to love someone and still protect myself. I filed each note in a plastic box on my office closet shelf. By year 5, there were 5 sheets and bank statements. Every transfer highlighted yellow. I didn't see it as a weapon. I saw it as memory. I've never been able to discard a promise. That box stayed untouched until my sister Sophie got engaged. But first, the cabin. 4 years ago, I landed the biggest contract of my career. A dental chain hired me to untangle a decade of messy books. I bought a modest 2-bedroom cottage on Hemlock Lake, 40 minutes north, in my name only, mostly cash. The first summer, I invited my parents for a week. My mother fell in love with the dock and the light at sunset. They returned the next summer, and the one after. Somewhere along the line, it stopped being June's place. It became the family lake cabin. My mother told her friends about our little spot as if she held a key. I never corrected her. Correcting my mother in public had been trained out of me by age 9. I told myself it didn't matter whose name was on the deed. I didn't understand yet that whoever controls the story believes they own the house. Sophie is 5 years younger. She got engaged to Travis Kemp, a commercial real estate agent. The engagement transformed my mother. Suddenly there were venues, menus, a palette of blush and champagne. I was happy for Sophie. But within 2 weeks, a familiar gravity returned. Whatever Sophie needed, I would quietly provide. My mother set it in motion over seating charts without looking up. You'll help with the deposits, won't you, June? You're the reliable one. Sophie needs the support. She said it like a weather forecast. The old reflex kicked in. Sophie needs the help. I'd heard that sentence in 100 variations. I was the one who didn't need things, which meant my needs were invisible. I said I'd look at the numbers. My mother smiled. That spring, I carried a low hum of dread. My mother kept asking offhand questions. How much did the cabin cost? Would the dock hold a wheelchair someday? I answered lightly. I mentioned it to my friend Camille, a legal secretary. She gave me a long look over coffee. Make sure your paperwork is in order, June. I laughed. My paperwork is always in order. I just didn't yet know what for. The wedding was in June at a rustic barn with fairy lights. I paid for more than I'll admit. During the toasts, my father stood up unusual for Leonard. He held a trembling paper, my mother watching with fierce pride. He announced they wanted to give Sophie and Travis a lasting gift, something that said this family takes care of its own. Then, he said it. They were giving the newlyweds the family home on Elm Street, free and clear. Signed over that week. The barn erupted. My mother beamed at me as if I should be the proudest person there. I sat very still, champagne warming in my hand, doing the only thing I know under pressure. I did the math. The house they had just given away was the house I had carried on my back for 5 years, so it would still exist. Nobody knew. My parents had simply forgotten to carry the number forward. I didn't make a scene. I smiled and clapped, because I am very good at what my family trained me to do. But under the table, my hand closed into a fist so tight my nails left crescents in my palm. 5 years of payments made invisible the instant they weren't needed. I got through the night on autopilot. Only on the dark county roads driving home did I let myself feel the size of it. At my apartment, I climbed the step stool to my office closet. The box was dusty. I sat on the floor in my wedding clothes and went through it. 5 promissory notes bearing my parents' signatures. Bank statements with every transfer highlighted. The running total in my neat hand. It wasn't a fortune, but the kind of number that changes a retirement. I felt a quiet grief, the grief of finally seeing what you'd spent years not letting yourself see. They hadn't forgotten out of cruelty. They forgot, because I had made myself so easy to forget. I closed the box. I had no plan, only a certainty settling like sediment. I would not make the next payment, and I would never again let my family tell me what I needed. 2 weeks passed. The newlyweds left for their honeymoon. I stopped the automatic mortgage transfer. The click of canceling felt enormous. Then my mother called, using her warm voice. We discussed the wedding, the flowers, how thin Aunt Florence looked. Then, she slid into it. Your father and I have been thinking. Now that the house is Sophie's, it doesn't make sense to scramble for an apartment. We thought we'd settle at the cabin. We'd take the upstairs room. You're hardly there during the week. She said it like she was doing me a favor, as though the cabin were a spare coat. My voice came out level, the accountant's voice. I told her I'd need to think. There was a small pause, the kind that means someone expected a yes and got a maybe. She laughed, light and certain. Think about what, honey? It's family. After we hung up, I took the box off the shelf and set it on my desk. This time, I didn't put it back. I met Camille the next evening at our diner. I brought the box and laid everything out. She read each page with the flat attention she gives documents that decide lives. The deed was clean, one owner, June Aldridge, no joint tenancy. They have a story about that place, she said. They don't have a single page. Then she tapped the promissory notes. These are real. Signed, dated, consistent. This is a debt, June. A documented debt your parents owe you against a house they just transferred to your sister. I felt something turn over in my chest. I told her I didn't want to ruin anyone. That isn't who I am. Camille nodded. Then don't. Stop lying for them. Let the paper say what the paper says. Out loud. In front of the people who only ever heard their version. That was the moment my path had a shape, not revenge. Just the end of my silence. I still hadn't given my mother an answer. 3 days later, I drove to the lake on a Saturday ahead of a storm. 2 cars sat in my gravel drive. My parents' sedan and Travis's pickup. The sedan's trunk was open, filled with labeled boxes. My mother stood on my porch with a tape measure. My father stood by the dock, hands in his pockets. Sophie and Travis were carrying a lamp toward my front door. I parked. The gravel was loud. My mother turned and smiled. Delighted, not caught. Delighted. There you are. We thought we'd start measuring. I asked quietly what they thought they were doing. Travis, hefting the lamp, answered with the easy confidence of a man never told no by this family. Getting your folks settled. It's the right thing, June. Family property should go to the family that needs it. There it was. I looked at the boxes, the tape measure, the lamp halfway to my door, and understood. They weren't asking. They were moving in. I didn't throw anyone out. The storm was coming. Light fading. I made it civil. We'd talk inside. I made coffee in my own kitchen while my family arranged themselves around my table like they were interviewing me for the right to stay. My mother led. She spoke about her knees, about stairs at any apartment, about people their age starting over. Every word reasonable. Every word skipped the fact that none of this was theirs to plan. Sophie chimed in. You really don't use it much, June. Wouldn't it feel good to know Mom and Dad are happy here? Travis, leaning back in my chair. Things should go to the people who need them most. You've got your apartment. You're fine. They need this. I felt the old yes rise, automatic. My father said nothing, staring at his coffee. The silence in that kitchen was made of things I had paid for and never named. I stood, crossed to the bookshelf, and lifted the box lid. I reached past the notes to the very bottom, where a single folded sheet had lived for 5 years. A letter. My father had written it the week I started covering the mortgage, one of maybe 3 letters he'd ever sent. I unfolded it at my own kitchen table and set it in front of him, without reading aloud. I watched his face change. The handwriting was his. June, I know I have no business asking my own daughter to save this whole family. You never make me feel small for it, which is more than I deserve. I'll pay you back, even if it takes the rest of my life. I'm sorry it's always you. It's always you, and you never once asked why. Love, Dad. He put on his glasses with a shaking hand. The kitchen went still. My mother reached for the letter, and I covered it gently. I kept everything. I've just never been able to throw away a promise. Nobody moved. Outside, rain hit the lake. My mother recovered fast, folding the softness away like it embarrassed her. The letter was long ago, she said. My father gets emotional. None of this changed that family helps family. I had plenty. They had little. What kind of daughter lets her parents go without? I let her finish. Then, I said no. Quietly, once. The way you stayed a closing balance. I loved them. I would always make sure they were safe, but the cabin was mine. They would not move in, and I was done pretending otherwise. Sophie's mouth opened and closed. Travis's jaw worked. My mother looked at me with something cold sliding behind her eyes. Then she did the thing this whole story turns on. She smiled small, certain, almost pleased. The smile of a woman who has decided something and is content to let you find out later. She stood, smoothed her slacks, and told everyone to leave before the roads got bad. She walked into the rain to the car full of boxes. No slammed door, no raised voice. Just that smile. I should have been more afraid. The next morning was Sunday. I was at my apartment with coffee. The storm gone. I thought the worst was over. Then, 3 firm knocks. I opened the door to a sheriff's deputy, young, polite, with a clipboard. He asked if I was June Aldridge. A report had been filed. My parents had come to the station that morning and claimed their adult daughter was taking financial advantage of her elderly parents. The phrase was so perfectly inverted that for a full second I couldn't make my mouth work. I'd carried that house for 5 years, loaned them tens of thousands without interest, and my mother described me as the predator. That was what the smile meant. She'd changed the game to one where paper didn't matter, only who told the story first. Here is where my profession saved me. Panic at financial advantage. And you look guilty. I didn't panic. I've spent 15 years telling clients the truth is boring and has paperwork. I invited the deputy in and asked for 90 seconds. I returned with the deed and my license, laid side by side. One owner, June Aldridge. He studied them. I explained this was my home, purchased with my own funds. My parents had been summer guests who wished to move in permanently. I had declined. He set the clipboard down and relaxed. Civil matter, not a crime. The financial abuse angle doesn't hold up against a document with your name as sole owner. At the door, he paused. For what it's worth, ma'am, the person who actually owns the house usually isn't the one being taken advantage of. Then, he was gone, and I stood in my kitchen and started to shake. If you've ever been the invisible support beam in your family, take a breath, put a hand on your chest. Being dependable is a gift you choose to give, not a debt you owe. Leave a comment with one word that describes the family member who leaned on you hardest. I read every single one. It took 2 days for the story to leak out. Sophie called, voice rushed, and scared. Travis had convinced my parents to establish on record that they were the wronged party. Get there first. File the complaint. Make me the predator. He assumed, the way confident men assume, that somewhere there must be paperwork proving the cabin belonged to the family. The detail that undid them, Travis never imagined the deed had only my name on it. Neither had my mother. They'd told their story so many times they believed the law would back it up. Sophie's voice was thin. "June, is it true? The cabin is only in your name?" She kept saying it like she needed me to deny it. Underneath her panic, I heard the first crack in the family religion that whatever Sophie and her mother wanted was how reality worked. I told her yes. Only mine. Always only mine. Long silence. Then she whispered, "Mom is furious. She's calling everyone. She's planning a family meeting at the lake. She wants the aunts there. She wants that officer there. She says you'll have to explain yourself in front of everyone. In my family, a meeting isn't a conversation. It's a court. My mother has held them my whole life, gathering relatives to nod, prosecuting whoever failed her. She wins by controlling the venue, the guest list, and the story. This time she said it at my cabin. She would hold court on my property to prove it was really the family's. She invited both aunts Florence and Margie. And she called the sheriff's office to request that same deputy attend as a welfare check, to witness the disturbed daughter refusing to do right by her parents. She was so sure the uniform would side with the story that she invited the very person who had already read my deed. When Sophie told me, I closed my eyes and breathed slow. My mother was building a stage, inviting witnesses, demanding I bring my explanation. She thought she was summoning me to judgment. She was really guaranteeing me an audience. I spent the next days getting ready, which for me means copies. I made a folder for each person, the cabin deed, 5 promissory notes with my parents' signatures, highlighted bank statements, and a summary page plain numbers, the running total of what I'd paid against a house gifted to my sister. I did not put my father's letter in the folders. That belonged to him and me. I called Camille the night before. She stopped me on one thing: don't argue. The second you argue, it becomes 2 people's opinions, and she's better at opinions than anyone alive. You're there to hand out facts. Stay quiet. Let the document speak. I wrote that on my folder. Let the document speak. I slept 4 hours, dressed plain and pressed. As I was leaving, my phone rang. My father. His voice was low. "June, please don't bring the letter. Your mother doesn't know I wrote it. If she finds out, it'll break something I can't fix." I stood in my doorway, keys in hand, feeling the weight of who I'd always been. The good daughter would protect him. For a moment, I almost promised. Then, I asked gently, "Dad, if you know I'm telling the truth, why are you letting her do this?" Silence. I could hear the kitchen clock. "Because I'm a coward," he said, voice cracking. "Because it's easier to let you be strong than to make her stop. It's always been easier." The most honest thing anyone in my family had said to me in years. It broke my heart and freed me at once. I told him I wouldn't read the letter, but I was telling the truth about the money. He could sit while his wife called me a thief, or find the courage he'd never found. I let the word hang. Then I said I loved him, hung up, and drove 40 minutes north to be put on trial. They were already there, arranged in my backyard like a courtroom. My mother had set my patio chairs in a semicircle facing one empty chair, the defendant's seat. Aunt Florence and Aunt Margie sat with the thrilled posture of women who love a family reckoning. Sophie and Travis stood near the dock. My father sat at the edge, half turned toward the water. And near the back, in plain clothes, Deputy Reyes held a coffee my mother had pressed on him. My mother stood as if she owned the light. She began the moment my feet hit the grass, voice pitched for the audience. She told them I'd always been difficult, cold, measuring love in dollars, a house sitting empty while my father needed somewhere to grow old, choosing pride over parents. She built it beautifully, and I watched my aunts' faces harden. Then she turned to me, certain of her verdict, and delivered the line I'd heard my whole life: "You're the reliable one, June. You've never needed anything. You don't need this cabin. Why are you doing this to your family?" The yard waited. 2 aunts, 2 newlyweds, 1 deputy, 1 silent father, 1 lake going gold, and me standing in grass I'd paid for, holding a canvas bag of truth. I did not raise my voice. She had performed 10 minutes. The natural thing would be to perform back. I chose otherwise. I set my bag on the table and handed out folders. Florence, Margie, Sophie, Deputy Reyes. None for my mother. I'm not going to argue with you, I said, voice so quiet they had to lean in. I'm just going to show you what's true. I told them. The deed to this house. One name. Mine. Then the other house. Given to Sophie. 5 years I had paid its mortgage. Without those payments, no house to give. I told them to turn to the signed notes, where in my parents' own handwriting, year after year, they acknowledged the debt. The yard went silent. Florence's mouth opened. Margie's hand went to her throat. I looked at my mother and gave her the only sentence I'd rehearsed. I'm not taking anything from anyone. I'm just done paying for a house that was given away without me. Deputy Reyes ended it. He read the folder, then addressed my mother, polite but final. He'd already reviewed the ownership. Civil matter, not criminal. Nothing resembling financial abuse. Then the part that took the air out, ma'am. These documents show your daughter is a creditor here, not the other way around. I'd be careful about repeating that abuse claim. False reports are their own trouble. He tipped his head to me and left. We listened to his car pull away. That was when my mother broke. She didn't cry, she doesn't cry. She turned on me, voice finally loud and ugly. You kept secret papers on your own parents. You sat at my table smiling, collecting evidence after everything we gave you. I looked at her, calm in a way I'd never managed before, and said the truest accounting I've ever made. You gave Sophie a house. You gave me a stack of IOUs you forgot you signed. Florence made a small sound. My mother stood in the yard she'd tried to take, surrounded by people reading in her own handwriting what she'd spent a lifetime hiding. Sophie still held her folder. I watched her read the summary page again. Watched the moment the real number landed. Her wedding gift came with a documented debt attached. Owed to me against the walls she now lived in. Her face went pale. For the first time, no certainty in her expression. What does this mean? For the house? For us? I could have frightened her. I was tempted, but I'm not my mother. Travis, so loud in my kitchen, had gone silent by the dock, a silence that was its own justice. I handed his words back gently. You were right, Travis. Property should go to the family that paid for it. He didn't answer. The whole architecture of entitlement that organized my family for 30 years was laid out on a patio table in plain numbers. Not one of them could find a single page to argue with. The lake went fully gold. For the first time, the loudest thing in an Aldridge gathering was the quiet. I did not take my sister's house. I know how these stories are supposed to end, the wronged one seizing everything. That isn't what happened. I wanted to stop being invisible, and I could give myself that without taking a single wall. I made them an offer as the evening cooled. I would forgive the debt, all 5 years wiped clean. No claim against Sophie's house on 3 conditions, which I'd brought in writing. First, my parents would stop treating my property as a shared resource. Second, they'd arrange their own retirement honestly, with the income they had. And I would help as their daughter, not their bank. Third, a real apology to me, out loud, in front of the aunts who had just watched me prosecuted. My father went first. He signed with a shaking hand, looked up with wet eyes, and said he was sorry. Sorry he'd known the truth and let me carry it because it was easier. Sorry no daughter should be that strong for that long. My mother took the longest. She stood at the patio's edge, arms crossed. I didn't know if she would do it, but the aunts were watching. The papers real, the story she'd lived inside finally hitting a wall. She signed last. Her apology was thin and stiff and cost her everything. It wasn't much, but it was the first time she'd ever said I'm sorry to me, and meant even a little. That little was enough. I kept the cabin. I stopped the payments for good. Driving home, 40 minutes of dark water on my left, I rolled the windows down and let the cold pour in. I felt something I'd never felt after a family gathering. I was a person who had been in the room, not the wall. Not the reliable one, but finally counted. Finally there. Love isn't being available to be used. Keeping a clear record of what you give isn't cold. It's remembering your own worth. If you made it here, you know how this feels. The quiet daughter, the forgotten receipts, the smile before the knock. If June's boundary gave you courage, Tell me in the comments where you found yours. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to Truncal Drama Stories. The people who give most quietly deserve, at least once, the last word said out loud. Your story might be the one we tell next.